So in a recent Eurogamer interview, Microsoft says Sony has to use asterisks next to their 4K claim because the PS4 Pro can't do true 4K gaming. Talk about a burn, but the Xbox Scorpio coming out next year can. So starting off, they talked about the price of the new system. Eurogamer said Scorpio obviously will have the more powerful specs, but won't the PlayStation 4 Pro always be cheaper? Scorpio has a bigger processor, more RAM, potentially a 4K Blu-ray drive. That can't be cheap, and I get the sense that it's already being billed as a premium product. Won't you run up against tough comparisons next year when Scorpio is more expensive than the PS4 Pro? Albert Pinella says, well, we haven't announced the price yet, so we'll see. Eurogamer comes back and says, sure, but the expectation is PS4 Pro will be cheaper than Scorpio, right? Pinella again responds, it will be an interesting discussion next time we chat. So a couple of things to keep in mind here, and these are just my own, kind of thoughts. One, obviously Microsoft doesn't want you to go out and buy a PS4 Pro this year, and they're going to remind you that they've got something new on the horizon. So part of this is going to be marketing and PR, but it's also possible Microsoft could release the Scorpio at a competitive price. I mean, new GPUs are coming out constantly, maybe at a faster pace than they've ever been pushed out before, with more power and for less money. So it could definitely be competitive, especially since we've still got a whole year to go. And I know I've seen some people say for them to put out, a 4K gaming machine that's going to have to be near $1,000, but I just don't see that happening. I think if it's priced any higher than $500 or $600, it's going to be dead on arrival. So I think they have to be competitive with their pricing. And again, they've still got a whole year to go for the prices to come down. Going back to the interview, Eurogamer says, well, if you guys come out at the same price or cheaper, that would be incredible. My view of Sony's pitch for the PS4 Pro is that it's a machine primarily aimed at a 4K experience, running games at the same frame rate as the original PS4. Isn't it fair to say that Project Scorpio is a similar pitch, that it will offer a 4K experience, but in terms of frame rates, we're looking at the same ballpark as Xbox One? Microsoft responds with, this is one of those things that's hard to speculate about until we see developers take advantage of the boxes. Obviously, there are things we haven't said about Scorpio yet that give me a different perspective on this. He goes on to push his boot down on Sony's neck by saying, I think there are a lot of caveats they're giving customers right now around 4K, talking about Sony. They're talking about checkerboard rendering and upscaling and things like that. There are just a lot of asterisks in their marketing around 4K, which is interesting because when we thought about our specs, what we wanted for the Scorpio, we were very clear we wanted developers to take their Xbox One engines and render them in native, true 4K. That's why we picked our numbers. That's why we have the memory bandwidth we have. That's why we have the teraflops we have, because it's what we heard from game developers, which was required to achieve native true 4K. Now, similar to what Sony said, that doesn't mean I'm going to require developers to do this. They're going to be able to decide to take that 6 teraflops of power and do whatever they think is best for their game. But I know that 4.2 teraflops is not enough to do true 4K gaming. So I feel like our product aspired a little bit higher, and we will have fewer asterisks around the 4K experiences when we deliver on our box. Eurogamer comes back and says, are you dancing around an accusation that Sony's marketing for PS4 Pro is misleading? Microsoft responds, no, I'm not dancing around it at all. I would actually say that if you go look at their own marketing and look at what Sony has said, they talk about checkerboard rendering. They've been open about it. I'm not accusing them of anything. They've been very open about the compromises that they've made around 4K. So Microsoft definitely throwing some shade at Sony for claiming that it's a 4K gaming machine while using developer sorcery in order to upscale and do different things in order to get that resolution that's not a true native 4K resolution in the vast majority of their games. Now, Sony has been taking heat about this, using the term 4K, not just from Microsoft, but from journalists and also gamers as well. Now, Andrew House has actually responded to this. He said this the other day, quote, I would say the majority of games will be upscaled, at least based on the game portfolio that I've seen to date. When pressed further on whether 4K gaming then was a misleading term from Sony, House continued and said, quote, "No, I don't think so. I think that whatever the term is, it's a question of whether people see a demonstrable difference in the game experience or not, rather than the term we use to apply to it. I think that's what people are looking for, and they'll make the judgment as to whether that's working for them or not." Which honestly is kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. Here he is admitting that games aren't going to be truly in 4K, even though they're claiming this is a 4K machine, and he's saying that it really doesn't matter because there is this difference in the games themselves. So apparently, if there's any sort of difference, you can call it whatever the hell you want. You know, it's like Microsoft could advertise their 900p games as being 4K because they can say, look, you know, it's clearly an upgrade from 480p. You know, as long as people can see a difference, I guess it really doesn't matter what we call it, and people can just judge it for themselves. But to be fair, I mean, he's probably right. I mean, they can call it whatever they want to. People who get it will see an upgrade and they'll be happy with it. I mean, most people, most consumers don't read the news like me and you do. They're not sitting here, you know, grasping at all the little details. And on paper, maybe there is a difference between checkerboard up-rendering and upscaling and true native 4K. But for the vast majority of people, they really don't care. And so as long as they do see a difference, that's probably all that matters. And from what I understand, people who have seen it in action on 4K TVs do say that it looks really good. And I mean, this goes back to the same thing that people have been arguing all this gen, you know, with Xbox. And, you know, people freak out about 900p and the difference between that and 1080p. And some people say they can't tell any difference. And some people claim that it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, whatever you see, I guess, is your own reality. I mean, on paper, though, you can't deny that it's not really a 4K, you know, native resolution or, you know, a 1080 if you're talking about 900p. Whether or not that makes a huge difference to people, though, is up for debate. So no, I don't think that people will really care, to be honest, that maybe there's an asterisk beside the PS4 4K, other than the enthusiasts who are all really paying attention to it. But really, 4K isn't a huge thing right now, and I don't think it's going to be something that a ton of people are, you know, even asking for. Not even a lot of PC players are playing on 4K. They don't even have 4K monitors. It's a niche crowd. But I do think what Sony and Microsoft are doing is they both realize that prices are beginning to drop drastically on these TVs. And in a couple of years, when you go to the store, this is going to be basically all you can buy. Like, I think they're going to just do away. Like, you can't go buy new black and white TVs anymore. You're going to get the latest in technology. And so these are dropping so much in price that it is going to be the default whenever you walk in, and people are going to have 4K and they're going to expect to have, you know, content that's in 4K. And so these consoles are going to be able to deliver it. And I kind of think back to, you know, whenever Microsoft first released the Xbox, and they mentioned, you know, it had internet capability. And you know, back then there were a lot of people saying that this will never go over, multiplayer will never catch on, because people's internet at the time couldn't keep up with it. But Microsoft saw where everybody was heading, and in a few years now everything has internet capability, and now nobody thinks twice about it. So I think that Sony and Microsoft do see that people are going to have 4K capability here shortly, in just you know, another year or two, and it's going to really start picking up because that's going to be all that you can really buy in stores. So I think they're just trying to get ahead of the curve. But I am glad that they're talking about letting devs handle this power how they want to. I'm still skeptical of the 6 teraflops being able to deliver a 4K experience that you can get without, you know, downgrading and sacrificing graphics and frame rate for. And I've mentioned this in the past, you know, I'm not just saying that they're going to be able to magically do everything that they claim they're going to be able to do. 6 teraflops is not a whole lot considering what's out on the market right now when it comes to 4K capability. But Microsoft is doubling down on the claim that their first-party titles will render in native 4K resolution. And again, as I've said before in the past, That's fine if that's what you want to do, but at least give gamers the setting. Give us the option to say, you know what? I don't really need 4K resolution if it's going to drop my frame rates. And if I want to play at 60 frame rates, give that to me and let me just play in 1080p, which apparently is what some games are going to be doing. So just give us that choice and I think everything will be fine. But if you come out with a premium console that still plays games at 30 frames per second and you launch it in 2017, that is an absolute joke. So if you want to read the full interview, links down below. As always, you can find out the latest news and headlines on my website, videogamesandnews.com, and you can also follow me on Twitter. Post your thoughts down below. Is Sony being misleading by saying 4K gaming when it's not really true 4K gaming? And will it make any difference to the vast majority of consumers? That does it for me, The Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Are you listening? Damn.